Okay, if I can call the meeting to order. Pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Everyone's had an opportunity to look over the minutes. Can I get a motion to accept the minutes as distributed? Is there any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. All right. May I vote? Going to hold a public hearing to consider the 2022 West Phoenix Fire Protection Enterprise Fire Company Agreement. May I have a motion to open up the public hearing?
I'll move it. I'll second it.
Okay. Is there anyone wishing to speak for or against the fire protection agreement? Okay. Any further discussion on that? Okay. May I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we're going to hold a public hearing to consider the 2022 Town of Lysander preliminary budget. I have a motion to open up the public hearing.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Okay. The public hearing is open.
Al's my assistant tonight. He's gonna. Those of you that took the time to come out tonight for the budget presentation, thanks for coming. If you have any questions, obviously we would ask that you hold them until the end, and there'll be a time frame when we're done here to hopefully answer any questions that you may have. So let's get into it. So a little review for some of you who have gone through this presentation numerous times in the past. For those of you that have never seen the presentation, obviously this will help you understand your town government a little bit more than when you first walked in here this evening. So the town's budget consists of 3 operating funds: a general fund, a general part-town fund, and a highway fund. And as you can see on my slide, the transactions are recorded in the general fund unless the law provides otherwise. So it's called a town-wide fund, a fund, meaning that all of the taxpayers in the town share the cost of the expenditures for that particular fund. The part-town fund, or what's called the B fund, the costs are charged only to the taxpayers living outside the village of Baldwinsville. So again, if you're a village resident, then you don't pay part-town fund expenditures. And so the highway fund is also a part-town fund. There are actually 2 highway funds, a whole town fund and a part-town fund. We only use the part-town fund for the cost for maintaining the roads, which include road repairs, snow removal, any weed and brush removal. And again, these costs are charged to taxpayers that live outside the village of Baldwinsville. So some of the functions, as you can see, there are many that make up the general fund: the town board, town supervisor, justice court, the comptroller's office, tax receiver's office, the assessor, town clerk, town attorney, town engineer, any town-owned buildings, whether it's the highway facility, a park facility, this building, are all run through the general fund. Any dog control expenditures, highway administration, meaning the highway superintendent or his secretary gets charged to the general fund. Parks and Rec charges for youth and seniors, the town historian, and then any home and community services. The items that get charged to the Park-Town Fund are the Codes Enforcement Office, the Planning Board, and the Zoning Board. All right, so let's get into a bunch of numbers. So as you can see, the total comparison of the expenditures is $5,632,000 compared to $5,169,000, which shows an increase of $464,000 or 9% increase. That's a little misleading in the sense that the total expenditure number of $5,632,000 includes $350,000 in expenditures that are going to actually flow through the capital projects fund, which I'll outline in another slide of how that money is going to be spent. So when you look at the true comparison of the expenditures from the operating funds from one year to the next, the increase was $113,882. So instead of a 9% increase, we really were looking at a 2.2% increase. So this next slide obviously shows you a breakdown of payroll, benefits, equipment, contractual, the reserve amounts, if any, the debt service amounts to arrive at the $5,632,698 total expenditures. And again, that $350,000 that I spoke of that's being run through the capital fund is in that contractual number. So you can see from the pie chart that a huge part of the budget is payroll and benefit related, over 50%. So again, this just is the same information. It breaks it down by numbers instead of comparing it. And then you can see the increases and the decreases by category from one year to the next. As you can see, obviously the benefit cost is going down. A couple of reasons: the New York State retirement amount is going down because they have been able to lower the rates to the municipalities. And then one of the other reasons is we've had some attrition. So we do have some people that are no longer on the health plan and fell into the retirees plan, which is much cheaper for the town. And the town the employees in the office here have joined the union, and they are now covered under the union's health insurance, which saved us quite a bit of money too. Next slide, Al. Thank you. All right, so this shows us the total budgeted expenditures by fund, compares the 2 years side by side, so you can see where the increase or decrease was. As you can see, the general whole town, small increase of just over $5,000. The Park-Town Fund actually went down almost $7,000. The Highway Fund went up $115,000. And then, of course, you got the capital projects that I was referring to earlier. That obviously is $350 this year, and we didn't have anything budgeted for 2021, so that kind of makes the numbers look a little crazy. And again, this is just a pie chart to show you, which fund and what percentage the budget is, the total budget is for each fund. And again, you can see that the highway fund is our major, almost half the budget at 49.8%. So obviously, once you know what your expenditures are, you have to look at all the revenues. And there's 3 sources of revenue that we use to budget, to pay for the expenditures. There's other income, appropriated fund balance. Once you know what those 2 numbers are going to be, then you know how much the property tax levy is going to be. So the other income numbers are items like the pilot agreements, which the town has 3 or 4, interest and penalties on tax payments, franchise fees, which is fees that we get from Verizon and Spectrum, and then income generated by the departments, as in the town clerk's fees, any engineering fees, any park fees, rental income. The town does have a couple of rental properties that we collect rent from, any dog licenses, fees, fines generated through the court, the town's portion, obviously. Mortgage tax, the town gets a piece of the mortgage tax that gets distributed by Onondaga County. And then there's state aid, we get CHIPS and AIM, and we also have some grants that come in. So as you can see, when you compare the 2 years side by side, the other income, which was those items that I just spoke about, the difference is $384,267, of which $350,000 of that number is grants, one-time grant numbers that we're getting to fund those capital projects, which I'll outline a little bit. So again, if you could just go back to that one slide, Al, for a second. So again, as I said, in the 384 is included 350. So when you subtract the 350, you can see the other income only increased just over $34,000. So it's really a true increase of 2.2%. Again, this slide breaks it down by fund, so that you can see where the differences are between the two funds. And that second one that says highway actually should say capital fund, but because that's where those grant monies are going to come. Sorry about that. I didn't catch that till just now. But okay. All right, so we have figured out what our expenditures are. We figured out what the other income pieces were going to be. So next we look at trying to estimate the fund balance at December 31st for the current year that you're in. And from that amount, the board actually, with my help in calculating it, figures out how much we're going to appropriate towards the budget. And then how much is going to be left over, or some call it a rainy day fund. So as you can see, we've estimated $2.986 to be the fund balance at December 31st. In this budget, we are proposing to use just about $592,000 of that, which leaves an unappropriated fund balance of $2,394,000. And as you can see from the little bullet at the bottom, when you take out that $340,000 highway reserve, because those are monies that we have dedicated to be split apart on the balance sheet for equipment to be in the reserve fund for the highway department. So when you take that $340 out of the $2,394,000, it leaves us with just over $2 million, which represents 36% of the total budget in the unappropriated fund balance, which is higher than what we typically keep it at. I will say that for those of you that may have been at the budget presentation last year, we were trying to be as conservative as we possibly could because of COVID, and there were many threats about this being cut, this revenue being cut, we weren't going to get chips, and all kinds of talk. So the year turned out better than what we anticipated a year ago. So this slide shows us just a comparison by fund of the increase or decrease in the amount that we decided to appropriate to the budget. And as you can see, we are increasing it a little bit, $84,000 to appropriate towards this year's budget. So we've gone through, we figured out what our expenditures were, we know what our other income is, we've decided how much was going to be appropriated towards the budget. That leaves us with the last number, and that's the tax levy. So as you can see from the slide, that the tax levy is down for general and part town by $117,000, or around 10.5%. And then the highway levy is $112,775 higher, which is 5.7. But when you look at it as in a total, as you can see, it drops by 0.1%, or just about $5,000. So once we know what the tax levy is, you have to figure out what the rate is per thousand, which is important to the homeowner. So as you can see, we have to break those three operating funds down by fund, and then take the assessed value that is associated for whole town, and then the part-town funds, obviously the assessed value is the same. So you take obviously the tax amount that you need to balance the budget and divide it by the assessed value to come up with the rate per thousand. And as you can see, it has to be done by fund because we have to break it out for people in the village, and then for those of us that live outside the village and have to pay the whole amount. So this slide, we figured out what the tax rates were per thousand on the previous slide. This slide shows us what the new tax rates are for each fund, and then the difference between 2021 and 2022. So if you live inside the village, your tax rate per thousand is going down 16.1%. If you live outside the village, your tax rate per thousand is going to go down 7%. So this is just an example to show you if your house was valued at $200,000 and what that means to you as a taxpayer. So if you live inside the village, your taxes are going to go down $18.30. If you live outside the village, then your tax rate or your total tax will go down $27.90. All right, so some of the key components that are included in the budget. So we have included $75,000 for building projects, which amount to $15,000 for a topsoil shed replacement, $20,000 to paint the town hall building, $37,000 to purchase audio-visual equipment, and $3,000 to relocate and fix up the storage shed. It includes $67,000 to support the Captain Lloyd Senior Center. I never actually put this bullet in here before. Probably should have. Taxpayers should know that we help support the Senior Center between us, the town of Van Buren, and the village of Baldwinsville. We have included $15,000 for town cemetery maintenance and support. We have 3 cemeteries in the town that have approached this town board and asked for some help in keeping them running, basically, because if they can't do it on their own, the town winds up in owning them by default, and it's easier for us to help them support what they need to do instead of taking them over completely. We've included $87,000 for legal and consulting fees, $29,000 for equipment for the Parks Department, includes $34,000 to chip seal the walks and some tree removal over at the town park, $980,000 for road maintenance and construction, $198,000 for the purchase of road salt. So obviously those are two big numbers, obviously. You gotta take care of the roads. Keep going now, there's more. All right, so the highway includes $311,000 for equipment purchases. So that includes a new plow truck. This board adopted a 5-year plan for replacing equipment over at the highway department. So it includes a new plow truck, it includes a small dump truck, and it includes a mower to arrive at the 311. So the $350,000 that I was talking about that are kind of screwing up our numbers a little bit for the capital projects are going to include the following projects: $100,000 for a bathhouse at the spray pad, $100,000 for exercise and playground equipment, and $100,000 to construct a cold storage building, and $50,000 to demo the Nosowich property, which is the property the town purchased, which is right in front of the park, The town bought that house 2 years ago, I believe it was, and obviously we're now in the process of getting rid of the house so we can make athletic fields out of it. The bargaining unit, highway employees, I might add town hall employees as well, will receive a 2.5% increase per their union contract. The salaries of elected officials are as follows. Town board members receive $10,005 a year each. The town justices receive $27,100 each. The town supervisor's salary is set at $52,955. The town clerk's salary is $50,672. Superintendent of highways is $65,000. So the two elected officials this year that are receiving an increase are the town clerk in the amount of $1,476. And the highway superintendent, the salary has been increased by $5,000. So that's that portion. Now we get into special districts, and I might add, I don't know the exact number, I should know this by now, but the town probably has close to 100 special districts in the town, between lighting, and drainage, and sewer. So let's go on to the next slide. And we have to keep them all separate. You have to keep all the transactions separate in each one of those districts. So these are special district revenues, and everybody's are different depending on what particular districts you happen to live in. So we have street lighting, water supply, water, fire protection, which we just had the public hearing on for the West Phoenix people, sewer, and drainage. So the lighting districts, how we come up with the amount that we need is we keep track, obviously month by month, and we figure out how much is expended each year to NIMO for the power, and to that number we have to add whatever's needed for the debt service. The water supply is a rate that is based on the annual hydrant fees and any lease agreements that we have with Aqua. The water district rates are set to cover an annual maintenance charge and, again, any debt service. The sewer rates are figured by looking at the previous year's maintenance costs, which is provided by OCWEP, and then looking at any operating costs for, say, the pump stations for NIMO or Verizon for the phone service to those. Any debt service payments that we may have in that particular district, and then any future capital expenditures. I might add, as far as the sewers go, the town now is in the process of, the county's gonna take over our sewer districts. That should be happening soon. And so in the future, the only thing we would need to probably raise any funds for in the sewer districts will be any debt service that we have within the districts. The drainage rate is set by any anticipated future maintenance needs and then we look at the current fund balance. So right now, the way that works, I sit down with the town engineer, because Al knows what's been done out there. He knows what needs to be done out there. We look at, okay, what's their fund balance? Do they have enough money to do next year's project? If not, then obviously we take that into consideration and then set a rate based on what Al thinks needs to be done. The fire protection rate is set by a contract with a fire company. So again, this is just a recap to show you how much is being spent for each district. As you can see, there is no revenues because none of the special districts generate any revenue at all. Some of them may wind up with a fund balance based on, obviously, maybe our estimates were off a little bit, so they wind up with some money. And of course, we apply that to the following year's budget so that we try not to hang on to the money because there's no reason for us to. All right. I guess I'll open the floor up for any questions.
So is there anybody that wants to, any questions for the budget or any comments from the end about the budget?
Assessment progressive. that's the capital budget, is that's, you've been able to offset that with grants.
Correct.
So those grants have all been approved,
Yep.
appropriated?
Yeah, we didn't,
Okay.
I didn't put them in the budget until they got the signed documents back that it's a go.
You're gonna get it.
Yeah,
Okay, it's not a wish list.
yeah, exactly.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, they offset one another,
Yep.
expenditure and the revenues.
Yep.
David, regarding the $100,000 expenditure on the park equipment, is there anywhere that we can go and see a detailed list of what's included in the cost of it?
Yeah, just, ask me later and
Okay.
I can show you the sheet.
Okay?
Yeah.
And the cold storage building that we're building there at the park, I'm sure we got
Actually, I think that's going on highway.
That's
right?
a highway.
Yeah.
We got at least three bids on that, right?
Oh, that hasn't even, we're not that far yet.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
We're just going waiting for that, but we're gonna go out and see the bids. and
Oh, sure.
See who gives us a better.
Either that or the highway may be able to do that themselves. We
Right,
gotta
okay,
take a look at
okay.
it.
Yeah. That it?
That it?
My last one.
Congratulations, Dave. All right, if there's no more questions, well,
Is this part, I didn't know if it was
Yeah,
part of the
no.
public hearing.
yep,
board.
yep.
We have to close this one.
Well, no, I got public hearing on budget. I just-
Oh,
First part was questions for
Thank you.
Kevin Road, 1405 Greenmore Way. On the budget, page 3 of the roll-up. Looking at the bookkeeper to the supervisor, and I see it's an increase. I think, I know this is a public hearing, I don't expect answers. I was just asking about the additional increase to that line item. Page 4 on the engineer. Seems like we've got a lot of possible developments in the future coming down the road in Lysander. I know Melvin Farm is probably gonna come close to getting in front of us with a incentive zoning or something along those lines. It seems like we don't have enough money budgeted for the engineering work that's gonna need to be done over the next year. I hope the town board feels that that's an adequate number. The AV equipment, the $37,000. I know at the budget work sessions, there was talk of putting a system in where people at home would be able to watch live. I hope the town looks at that number, puts that in the budget, just in case. I know that stuff's really expensive right now, but if it goes down, because there's maybe 6 people, or well, there's 10 people in the audience or so, and probably 4 of them might ask a question. It'd be nice to get more interaction. At least people could watch it from the comfort of their home. So if that's not included in that 37,000, I know there were a couple different numbers that the board was looking at.
I think that 37,000 was including that, wasn't it? The,
No, you pared it back significantly from what the total estimate was. We're gonna do as much as we can
Okay.
and have the capability to upgrade to do,
yeah.
What was the original total number? If I may ask.
our IT consultant, I believe, recommended that we budget 60,000.
Okay. I mean, I know it's $23,000, but it would allow the public, if we ever do have COVID again, or something else happens where the public can't attend, it gives everybody the opportunity to watch the meeting from the comfort of their home and maybe even ask a question. Page 7, the Secretary of the Highway Superintendent, I see the preliminary budget has 24,310. I know at the last meeting there was a raise. I was just checking to make sure, and I don't remember the exact numbers on the raise. Does that cover a 2.5% increase like almost everybody else gets on January 1st? And then on page 7 also, for equipment for the highway supervisor, I see that's down $1,000. I know we got a new highway supervisor coming in, but I'm not sure if we spent all that equipment line item this year or previous years, or if $1,500 is enough. Also on page 7, going back to the raise part, I see the park director's in there for a 2.5% raise. You know, and the new park director just started like last May at $55,000 a year. Not questioning it, I know everybody else got a raise, but it seems a little soon. The parks line item on page 8, AO 07310-109, it just says other. I know it's probably just a contingency, or if we need something that goes wrong at the park, but I was just wondering what that money is for. And then the ARP money, I know we've talked about it, the ARP, the federal stimulus money. I know it's not in the budget, and I'm just wondering, do we have plans for that? Do we have an idea? It'd be nice for the public to know. You know, did we receive our first payment? Things
We
along
didn't receive
those-
our first payment, but we don't have any plans yet.
Okay. Page 14, road maintenance, I saw it's down $60,000. And I just, you know, we did a lot of road work last year. I know some of it was grant money, but I don't know why we would want to lower our road maintenance unless we're into our highway maintenance fund and we're doing really good at road maintenance. But walking the streets, there's a lot of roads that could need some work, I noticed. The other question I have on page 14 is road salt. I know we budgeted $197,850. I'm just hoping that's enough for possible increases as the winter goes on. And depending on what kind of year we get. We seem to have more and more rain / right around freezing weather where we could use a lot more salt. You know, I'm not sure if with the increases that are expected, if that's enough money. That's it. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Fred Birch, Plainville Road. Normally when I come up here and address the board or ask a question of the board, I try to have command of the topic that I'm talking about, try to know more about it than the people that I'm asking questions. In this situation, I'm curious, and I know that you guys aren't there to answer our questions, but.
No, we are. When it comes to the budget, we are. And nobody expects you to
Okay.
have command of it because it's
Okay, I
not
just,
an easy,
I'm curious, and I could be totally off base and be ignorant and not know what I'm talking about. When I saw David presenting the budget, a couple things that stuck out to me were, you know, what we're paying various departments for their services, like the salary. And I could be wrong and off base, but it sticks out in my mind that not this board, but I believe the previous board, when we had a new position or a new person taking office in the town, it was an elected position, it seems to me that there was discussion of an actual, that they reset the salary, like somebody previous had achieved a certain salary amount, and then when the new person came in, it seems, I can remember the board talking about how they kind of reset it. It was valued a little, you know, because there was less experience or something like that maybe. And so, I'm pretty sure it was regarding the clerk's office. And I don't know the exact numbers, but I remember the board, you know, discussing that. And so, I know we're gonna have a change in highway superintendent here soon, but we have Mr. Dinsmore who's attending, and I know that when he was in office 4 years ago, he was, I believe his salary was $54,000 and some change per year. And I notice now that our highway superintendent is at $65,000 a year. And I'm wondering, with a new change coming in, if it was appropriate for the previous board, which included some of these members, to adjust the new incoming rate. Would it also be pertinent to do the same with the highway, or are they different type of offices and you can't do that, or?
Specifically with the, what are you talking, I mean, with the highway.
Well, I could see that we're gonna be paying $65,000 a year for that, and I know when Mr. Dinsmore was in office 4 years ago, he was making $54,000 and some change, so that's $11,000.
Right, and in my opinion, that's way low, and when you do the, and I did, I have all the, I have almost all the salaries from everybody in the county for all the positions. Some positions fit well with what we have, some don't. Highway superintendent is the highway superintendent, so our highway superintendent was the lowest in Onondaga County. And my suggestion to the board last year and this year, and it will be next year, is to raise that up to, and ultimately to $70,000, which would be still less than the median salary, but it would bring it, that salary range closer to what other municipalities are paying their highway superintendent.
Okay, now, is there a difference in the work requirement from the various townships? In other words, do we require more from, or does Clay require more from their superintendent than we do, and thus they compensate for that?
There is, and like Clay, for instance, I think their highway superintendent makes $96,000.
Okay.
But they also include parks in there. So, but when you look at, so we took that into consideration, but when you're looking at other highway superintendents throughout the county that does work similar to our highway superintendent, our highway superintendent position is still low. So this is bringing that salary up closer to where the median is.
Okay, so, I don't ask, and I appreciate that, Bob, and I accept that, and I don't expect you, maybe to answer this, but, because you weren't there, but based on what the previous board and their decision-making on adjusting a salary to reset it, was that based on looking out at what the other townships were paying and the requirements that they were looking from that office, do you think?
Dave, do you remember the town board ever moving the town clerk's salary backwards? I don't, so that's why I do not recall the town board resetting or going back with an elected position.
No, I don't recall.
Okay.
Okay, I was gonna say, I don't think that.
And like I said, when I
I
came.
think that maybe you're thinking about a deputy, the deputy town clerk?
When I came up here, I didn't have command of the subject, and I don't like talking, but I was curious, it just seemed that it stuck out in my mind that the previous board had discussed resetting a salary when somebody was new to the office as compared to the, maybe what the previous person had been paid, because they had maybe had more experience. And I could be wrong, it just seems like something that I had remembered the board discussing, and I was just wondering if that was, standard procedure that we look at with every, office, or,
I can only speak for when I'm here. I mean, if somebody else wants to address that, I mean, certainly, but what I saw from the salaries, and when we negotiated a contract with the new union, and what I wanted to do was make sure that we were at least in paying our employees an adequate salary, because it's hard to find people now.
Right.
And most of our positions were low. If you looked around the county, we were low for positions that were either exactly the same or similar.
Okay.
And so when we negotiated it, we brought it up to now pretty much everybody is at median or a little higher. Nobody's at the top salary in Onondaga County, but they're I think being paid a fair wage, and they're right about in the median as far as the salaries. Now, when it came to the highway superintendent's salary was very low. The clerk's salary is lower than other clerk's salaries around. Now, with different towns, they pay, or they have different responsibilities. So, you know, that, we take that into
Right.
consideration as well.
Right, it's been a while, but I remember some 7, 8 years ago when I had a little bit more time to dedicate it, and I was looking into salaries. The one thing, it's not only what they pay, but what they expect out of you. And you know, as far as like the highway superintendent, the big thing to look at, how many miles of road do we got? How many cars do we got on our highways and stuff like that? So,
And we have a lot.
we do have a
We
lot.
have a lot.
And Bob, you know, you've been here a long time. You've been here the duration with me. We're still pretty much using the same exact roads we were using in the 70s. As far as the town of Lysander is concerned, we got probably 10, 12 more thousand people in our township than they had when we were growing up, and we're still using the same main roads.
Right. But I don't know what they were doing. We cover county roads too now.
Yeah.
I don't know what they were doing then. I have no idea.
Okay.
But like I said, I mean, when we look at the salaries of our people, I think our people now they're right about in the median. They're not high, they're not low, but you know, we're competitive with where positions are
Okay.
in the county, and we have to be. We don't want to lose. I mean, we're losing Dave, you know,
Yeah, right.
and you lose a lot of institutional knowledge. So we don't want to lose.
Absolutely.
When we were negotiating the contract, the justices came in and pleaded with me and Counselor Kudaraskis here to do something about their town clerks, or about their justice clerks, and they were low. And I know what kind of work they have to do, and we addressed that.
Yeah.
And because they were having, if you look at what they were experiencing, a lot of turnover. And other towns that are low are experiencing that turnover too. We don't want to lose it.
Especially when something's running
Yeah,
good.
we don't want to lose
We don't
that
wanna-
experience.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
sure.
Appreciate your time.
Okay. Okay. Good questions. Anybody else? No? All right. There's no other questions. I have a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, public hearing is now closed. Citizens' comments. Any citizens have any comments tonight regarding town business?
Kevin Rowan. Item F, well, I'm not sure, there's 2 ABs on my sheet, so, but it's F on there. I see it's
I didn't notice that.
Pop Warner contract, and the Pop Warner signed it on May 6th, but it doesn't look like the town ever signed it. Maybe it was just an oversight, I was just wondering why it took so long. The first motion B, or I'm sorry, no, second, I got that wrong. First motion, second motion A. A&L Properties for the snow removal, the troopers barracks, just wondering if there were other bids.
We did not get any additional quotes coming.
Okay,
We
not
sent it-
surprising.
We sent it to.
I have like a list of more
I
than
think
that.
6 other contractors got the RFP.
Nobody can find people. That makes sense. I saw that bid, I didn't see any others, so that's what I expected. And then, budget modifications for the raises that were approved a month ago. I haven't seen anything about that yet. I was just wondering if we're gonna see those. Still wondering about where our unappropriated fund balances are. I saw in the presentation that it's about $2 million estimated, and we've never had that kind of amount of money sitting that we've collected from taxpayers and other monies. You know, maybe it goes back to my issues on the town budget, and what we might want to shore up with some of that money. And then the last item is at the work session, we were talking about the state law about the 24-hour notice that the governor signed. the state legislature approved. I think it's a great law because people will come in, you see an agenda a day or 2 days before, and then you see the next meeting minutes when they're approving them, and there's 5 or 6 other things on there the public had no idea about. I like the law. I don't think there's except for emergency issues. If something happens in the town, emergency things are fine. We've got the bid for the truck that the parks director was talking about. The bid was on the website, so why it couldn't have been put on a motion, you can always remove the motions. It's not that hard, but putting something on there without public knowledge, it's not right, you know? It's like having, approving the town of Lysander preliminary budget tonight. I know there's a state rule that says you gotta approve the town budget by the 15th or 20th of November. So, you should take in what people say. I for one, am not a fan of voting immediately after public hearings. So, but I think it's a good state law. It lets the public know what you're doing, even if it's good for the town. It puts a process in place. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Gene Densmore, 7493 Highland Drive, former highway superintendent. I would just like to back up what Mr. Rowe told you about the $60,000 decrease in the road maintenance budget. It's hard to do what you do. The budget is hard to develop if you're not given facts. And if you didn't go out and snoop them out for yourself. But I can tell you, in my opinion, as former highway superintendent, that highway price, that budget, should be going up 60,000, if not 100,000. The roads we've made a lot of headway in the last year. Some of it by hook and by crook we got out of Niagara Mohawk and different other situations. But that road budget was historically depressed for so long. We had a very fine gentleman, highway superintendent years ago, but he came in here and whatever, with his hand out and whatever he got, that's what we had, okay? So the roads, the previous guy, 2 superintendents prior to me didn't have a big enough budget. And until Al and I got here and started trying to, in steps, bring it up. And so we're still not at the top step, I can tell you that. Okay, we had some good luck this past year, but you're not at the top step. That highway fund, paving fund needs to be the opposite. Instead of 60,000 down, at the very least, put it 60,000 up. More like 100,000, I would feel more comfortable with. And believe me, just like you're doing with the payrolls, you do it in steps. You can't clobber the taxpayers all at once. But whenever somebody comes in here, can you think of anything in the past year that went down in price? I know that I just paid $30 to put 3/4 full gas tank in my car. And I can't imagine what the asphalt price is gonna be next year. I can't imagine. If we continue in the slope that we're on, we're not gonna, I can tell you, we're gonna need some more money in that highway budget. So please do yourself a favor, give us a step. You couldn't give us enough to get to the top step. Put 60 or 100,000 in there. It won't go to waste. Okay? And one other pet peeve of mine, You had spoke about the $37,000 for the audiovisual, and I know you talked quite a bit about the public address system in this building right here. And I don't know, I'm not sure where that discussion ended, but I can tell you that this public address system in this room is not adequate. You cannot hear, there's only a couple of people here whose voice is naturally strong enough to carry through the room. Okay, and I sit in the back purposely just to listen, to try to monitor it. And I'm telling you, I can hear him all the time, every time. Okay, I can hear you 3/4 of the time. I can never hear you, and I can only about 68% hear you. And you're always not gonna be here next time. So we know the engineer told you that the system is old, it needs replacing. I don't know where that 37,000 falls. But I do know that you guys gotta either sit closer to the microphone or speak louder until you get this thing fixed. You see me, I'm speaking to the microphone. You gotta do that, otherwise people in the back can't hear. You're just lucky that we don't have mobs in here like we used to have with pitchforks and torches. You need to speak into the microphone or speak naturally loud enough to carry to the back of the room. Okay, I'm done. Other than that, I think the budget was a good job. Thank you.
I hear you.
Good job.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? I want to start off with, we have a little plaque for our comptroller. He doesn't know that, so.
I didn't know that, I would have stayed home.
That's why we didn't tell you.
Can we come up close enough to hear?
What?
Gee, there's a couple of people in here. Oh, gee. Okay, so it says, pretty nice plaque too.
Very nice.
So, it said, presented to David Rowley in recognition of your many years of dedication, hard work, leadership, outstanding talents, professionalism, and friendship to the town of Lysander. Your presence will be missed. Congratulations on your retirement, and it goes from 1990 to 2021. Got it?
If you hold it higher, everybody looks better.
I got
Or get it
surgery,
together
can't
again.
go home.
Get it together, get it, here, do one more, because I want to do closer, but
Do
that's
one
to
more?
get the plaque.
Okay.
Okay, good, thank you.
Right.
We had a very healthy conversation at a budget work session regarding elected officials' raises. Over the last 7 years, I voted against a budget because we raised taxes one year and gave raises to non-bargaining employees. And I had a hard time justifying the fact that we were raising taxes and at the same time period giving raises to employees. This year, we're cutting taxes, and we were looking at giving a couple elected officials raises. I think the highway superintendent, I understand keeping the position in a perspective where it needs to be funded. I wasn't so sure that the town clerk position needed it. but there was a good conversation at the work session, and a majority of the board members felt that the position deserved a raise. It was a conversation and a debate that we had. So, want to thank everybody for coming. Dave, for the last 7 years, you've been a huge resource to me, and I appreciate that, so thank you so much.
You're welcome. Let's do the rest.
I just want to thank everyone for coming. Dave, thank you for all that you've done here for the town of Lysander in those years that you worked here. You've been a huge asset. You're definitely going to be missed, and I will see you all the time. Looking forward to it.
Stop stopping at my house.
Yeah. Is that a hint?
Mr. Dressen?
You know, one of the things I have to just echo, or maybe even add to what I've heard about David Raleigh. I've been on the board since 2014. And, you know, one of the reasons that this town is in such good financial shape is we know where every penny is. And that's not by accident. I don't think other towns can boast that. If you don't know where your money is, how could you possibly manage it appropriately? And it's, you know, I've had the pleasure of serving on 3 boards, the last 2 of which have been committed to not spending money crazily and keeping things stable. And that's all part of keeping a budget, you know, consistent and not having these ups and downs. But you can't do it unless you have someone giving you the right information, and that person has been David Raleigh as a comptroller. You know, I ran a very big department for Onondaga County. The Parks Department had a $15 million budget. If I didn't have the people working for me that knew that budget inside and out, I couldn't have done it. And I have to say the same exact thing about all the work and commitment you've brought to this town, David. Thank you very much. That's all I can say to you. Thank you very much.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the budget as well. And David, thank you. You've taught me a lot over the years. So I always enjoy working on the budget. I say it before budget season. I say it when it's all done. I do enjoy working on the budget, and I'm proud of the outcome because I believe this town gets a really good service at a good price by the time we're done putting this thing together. Gene mentioned all the cost rising, and I agree with you. And that is exactly why we treat taxpayer dollars the way we do. It's great that we can decrease taxes. And you know, for a $200,000 home inside the village, it was $18.30. And outside, it was $27.90. But it's still a decrease. If it went the other way, there would be pitchforks. Who was talking about? There would be pitchforks in here. So, by the same amount. So really, those budget discussions we have are so vital and they're intense. And so nobody wants to fund one department less than another department, but we do have to make decisions. And I do believe that we are still providing good service at a good price. And I'm proud of that. Another thing I'm proud of is just our community. A couple weekends ago on October 23rd, and Kevin, maybe you'll end up talking a little bit about this, but it was so nice to go through the village of Aldinsville and just see hordes of people out painting windows, walking in costumes with their kids, trick-or-treating, business to business. It was just so refreshing to see people in our community out and about. And I want to thank anybody and everybody who played a part in making all of that happen, because it just put a smile on my face to see our community doing good things again. And other than that, I would like to thank everybody for coming out and giving their input and watching on PAC-98. Thank you.
Mr. Rivazigno?
Just to remind the board, I think I brought it up before, that we have received a check for $11,175, which was part of a lawsuit for work that was done on our highway department equipment. So we received the check finally. It was a year ago that we applied for it, but we finally got it. And let me just add to David, it's been great working with you for the last several years. Don't change your phone number.
Mr. Merrill?
The sidewalk in, between the driveway and the spray pad is finally poured and completed.
Looks good.
So it does. It looks good, turned out well, so glad to see that done. We'll finish the work around it come spring when staff comes back, so. And as Mr. Moore had mentioned, on the 23rd, we had the annual Halloween window painting. And weather was fantastic, and the turnout and the excitement of everybody there was, I think, even more fantastic. It was nice to see the community out as one. It was nice. That's all I got.
Mr. Yeager?
Nothing this evening.
No?
I'm all set, thanks.
Nothing? Okay. We'll move on to the regular agenda items. May I have a motion to authorize the town supervisor to sign the 2022 West Phoenix Fire District Protection Fire Enterprise Company Agreement?
I'll move it.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? There should be, well, there is a justification. They're asking for a 2% increase, and they outline what they need the additional monies for in their letter to the town. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. May I have a motion to approve the 2022 Town of Lysander preliminary budget?
I'll move that.
Go ahead.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
I do, I have two things, and one, it's a comptroller opinion question. I sent an email out today, and I know things have been busy. In the 2020, on page 715, the Parks Director salary, we talked about this during budget deliberations. From a bookkeeping standpoint, should we not amend the 2021 budget before we pass the budget?
That has nothing to do with 2022's budget.
Correct.
We will amend the 2021 budget to get the dollars transferred.
So when this sheet is finalized,
No, it won't change on there.
I'm just worried about, and again, I'm not arguing with you, I just want to make sure that I'm comfortable that in the future, when someone looks at this, they're gonna say, well, what happened here? As opposed, because
Well,
we're
You
spending.
have to know that the dollars were budgeted on a different line item
Right.
because of the title.
Right,
But,
all right, so you're comfortable from a context.
right, because you'll notice the heading, Bob says, as adopted, not amended, as adopted.
Right,
So,
okay.
or otherwise, we'd still be, because there's going to be other budget amendments before the year's out.
That's true, that's true.
You know.
It was just such a big one, and it's
Right.
not like we're doing anything weird, it's just
Sure.
that, we.
But again, next year when that roll-up is prepared,
Yeah, see
obviously,
that
you're
number.
gonna have 2022's number in there and then a new number for 23.
2021,
so-
okay, good. All right.
Yeah.
And the only other one, I was just gonna float an amendment if folks were willing to consider this, was the highway superintendent secretary. We changed, and I was really appreciating the fact that we reflected a salary for 2021 that was on par with what everybody was getting in terms of raises and from the new union that was established. But the salary for that position for 2022 is the same as what we agreed it would be for 2021. And at a 2.5% increase, that salary would go up $611 to $24,921, as opposed to the $24,310 that's budgeted. And so I'm asking for some consideration that we just reflect the fact that we ought to treat everybody the same when it comes to salaries. And in that way, there's no wondering, like, why is this person not getting the 2.5 and why is this person getting it? I wish there wasn't so much, whatever the word is, controversy over this particular position, but in the future, I just want to, I like that I'm comfortable with the idea that outside of elected officials, which are different, and maybe some specialty titles like a like a parks director, although I'm not even proposing it for that, you know, if this union is gonna get 2.5, then everybody should get 2.5.
I don't have a problem supporting that.
Oh, I think I'm
I mean, I don't-
proposing the amendment, and I think it has to be seconded
I'm seconding
first,
it.
and then we have to have discussion.
So I'll second it.
So is this discussion now? So you want to give her another 2.5% raise on top of what we just gave her?
Just like everybody else got a raise in 2021, yes.
I'm not for that, I'll just be honest with you. I think we gave her, I think if I did my math correctly, it was a 21% raise last time, 2 weeks ago, overall. But no, I'm not for that.
I don't think we can put it on, again, we had that whole discussion about the open meeting.
Amendments don't count, Peter. We can put it on according to our town attorney. If we want to amend the budget, which is a resolution in place, we can do that. So I don't want to have it's just say vote it up or down as an amendment.
Are we sure there's not enough dollars there already?
Well, what's budgeted is the 2021 salary, not the 2022 based on a 2.5 increase. It's page.
Yeah, I'm looking at 7 and 15.
Yeah. Instead of 24,310, if she was a member of the union, or I don't want to say she, if that person in that position if that position was in the union, that salary line would be 24,921, because everybody's getting 2.5.
Yeah, that's not necessarily true, but.
Okay, correct me.
Because we would have negotiated that during the contract negotiations, and it wouldn't necessarily be that.
Well, we're talking about $611 to bring everybody at the same level, and I don't want to debate it any further.
Well, I'm not in favor.
I feel like we've debated this salary for the past 3 to 4 town board meetings. We did just give 2 raises to this individual. I don't know that I want to do it again.
You brought the salary up to what it would have been, Peter. That's what we did. We didn't magnanimously give a raise. I don't even know this person, so I hope it doesn't leave here that all this, I don't even know who this person is. But we weren't magnanimous. All we were doing was treating this position like we were treating everything else. And that's the point I'm trying to make.
Are there any other positions that we can think of that aren't gonna get a raise next year? That are that are not like
That are not
officers?
elected. No, that are, all the non-elected people are getting a raise next year.
So there's nobody next year that's not getting a raise besides this one.
But if what
One
Supervisor
position.
Wicks said, we would have, if she was in the union, which you can't argue that point because we would have negotiated her salary from the beginning of it, it would have been different than it is now.
It's too bad we're fighting over $611.
Somebody, because I don't know what the hourly rate is, obviously, and it's sort of out of the-
1870 right now.
out of the loop a little bit.
And
It's
it's 1870 now, and it
Now.
would be 1917 at the higher rate, at the 2.5% more than 1870
Yeah,
brings you
all right,
up to
I'm with-
$19.
I understand what you're doing now, but, okay.
Well, we gave the union personnel, we gave them 1 raise this year, and they received retro pay from June 1st to when they received their first pay. We gave the highway superintendent secretary 2 raises, one from January to June, and then another one from June to the current rate, which brought her up to 1870, which amounted to, I think, about an 18% raise. The union people didn't receive the retro pay from January to June, so we didn't treat everybody the same. And that's 2 raises in 1 year, and the raise that we currently gave is only 2 months away from the first of the year. So I think that that position is adequately paid right now. That's my position, so I wouldn't be in favor of that. If you want to adjust the budget amount to reflect the $18.70 an hour for 25 hours a week for 52 weeks, that comes up to $24,310. I don't have a problem with that.
Well, that's what's in the budget.
That's what's in the budget.
Oh,
That's what's
okay.
in the budget.
All right, I thought it was, I must have looked at the other one. Then, personally, that's what I think it should say.
Call the question.
Okay. Then, so what was the motion?
The motion was to amend the 2022 budget to reflect the salary for the the secretary to the highway superintendent to be $24,921.
Okay. Take a roll call then. All in favor?
Aye.
No?
No?
Aye.
No.
Okay. Motion failed. All right. Any further discussion on the preliminary budget?
So the preliminary budget, there was a little discussion about, the deadline for this is not going to fall before our next town board meeting, is that correct?
No, it is.
Has to be voted on by the 20th.
By the 20th. Right. Yeah.
So
So our next, I
next
think that's,
2 weeks from today would be the 18th. Correct?
Yep,
is it?
yep.
So we can sit and reflect on all the comments that
I
we
would just
received
check.
today.
You know, I thought, okay, hold on.
I mean, does that
You know,
make
I
sense
might
to
have looked
anybody else?
at,
I agree.
yeah, it has to be passed by the 20th.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, we can wait, if we want to table this. I'm okay with that. Take a look at that.
Reflect on, yeah, I would say, reflect on the comments that were made.
All right. So, are we in agreement with it on the table then?
I don't have a problem tabling it.
I'm in agreement.
Yep.
Sure.
Okay.
So are we not, so we're not gonna rescind that and do another one, or are we gonna motion?
Passed the first one.
Oh, it says motion to approve the 22 budget, and then Drossy and Kudrowskis,
That was
That was the
Rossi, there was an amendment.
That was the-
so-
I think so you opened with a discussion with Mr. Drossy approving and Mr. Kudarakis seconding the overall budget, preliminary budget. So do they have to do a motion to table because they actually started the process?
I'll move the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've already agreed to table it.
Yeah.
so we're just tabling that then, even though we started the motion process.
So we can just table.
And vote on the 18th, if you want to.
Okay. All right. For some reason, I thought that we didn't have time to do that. Okay. May a motion authorize the town supervisor to sign the contract with ALM Property Maintenance in the amount of $3,200 for snow removal at the Lysander Trooper Barracks for the 2021-2022 winter season.
I'll move that.
I'll say.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. A motion authorize the budget modification request submitted by the town comptroller to transfer of $5,000 from A0-7310-401 to A0710-400 for the purchase of playground curb.
I'll move that.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. May I have a motion to accept the following fire hydrants in Timberbank, Section 3, Phase 5 and 6. Hydrant number 14701, which is 500 feet east of Tall Tree Lane between lots 368 and 369. Hydrant number 14702, which is 550 feet north of Forest Ridge Lane between lots 401 and 402. Hydrant number 14703, which is 170 feet north of Forest Ridge Lane between lots 377 and 398.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. May I have a motion to accept the following fire hydrants in Copper River, Phase 2. Hydrant number 14704, Stony Pond Lane, 300 feet west of Dillingham Way between lots 84 and 85. And hydrant number 14706, Stony Pond Lane, 270 feet west of Dillingham Way between lots 86 and 87.
I'll move it. I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. May I have a motion to accept the following fire hydrants in West Phoenix Water District. Hydrant number 671, Lamson Road, 800 feet northeast of Pendergast Road.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. May I have a motion to authorize the town supervisor to sign the Pop Warner Little Scholars, Inc. Pop Warner football agreement for the calendar year 2021 to 2025.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. May I have a motion to set the punch list security requirement for the Whitetail Woods Section C1 subdivision at $42,000 per the engineer's letter dated October 13, 2020.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. May I have a motion to set the required maintenance security guarantee for the Whitetail Woods Section C1 subdivision at $76,173. 25% of the project value per the town engineer's value of improvement estimate and included in this letter dated October 13, 2021.
I'll move it. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. May I have a motion to accept the dedication of roads and drainage system included in the Whitetail Woods Section C1 subdivision. Roads included in this resolution that the town will maintain from this date forward included the following. Street Longbow Way, length 0.0173 miles from the dead end of Longbow Way to proceeding north to the dead end turnaround.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Mr. Supervisor, can we add a contingency on this? The town attorney has not received the deeds for the right-of-way, so just contingent on the town attorney receiving the deeds from the developer's attorney.
So contingent on the town attorney receiving the deeds on the town right away?
Correct.
The highway superintendent is not here, so it's just gonna start asking this question for every time we take a road, this road's done.
Yes, we spoke to the highway superintendent, or I spoke to the highway superintendent on Tuesday about this,
Okay.
before I sent the resolution to Dean.
No issue, okay. Good.
Yes.
So the letter you sent with the 1.5 inch top course, that's on there or not?
No, we never put the top course on until after 1 year.
Okay. Thank you.
We put the top course on after we accept this?
Yes, we do.
Oh, okay.
That way, if we have any utility trenches or anything that settle, we can put a true and leveling course in before we put the top course on.
Thank you, Ed. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. Okay. I don't believe there's any need for an executive session, so we have a motion to adjourn at 8:30. All in favor? Aye. Adjourn.